Hello, true believers. This is BebotsOnly, and it's been a while since I've done one of these court type of videos or vlogs. And the reason why is, like I said, I have a big to-do list on my own, and then my wife's honey to-do list, and then the kids, they have their to-do list. Then my list just seems to get neglected. So finally, I decided, you know what? Before we're picking up a new car today, because we only have one car, we needed a new car. I know people are asking, well, what happened to the Hyundai i10? The Hyundai i10, like I said, was a disposable car, and it got to the point where it was worth more than it was fixing, and we had to get rid of it. I mean, this was done while I was indisposed, so I really had no control over it. But even after the car went through all that fixing, I think it was like $2,000 worth of repairs, it was still acting up. It was still stalling. It was still, you would be driving it and it would stall and stop. The engine would just turn off. So I said, you know what, just get rid of it. Don't spend any more money fixing it. So fortunately, we were able to recoup the money that was spent on fixing it. So we spent $2,000 fixing it, and it was sold for $2,000. Now, it was working, but it was just temperamental. You never knew when it was going to stop working, so we couldn't do that. And at that time, we didn't need another two cars for the boss to be dealing with. So we just said there was a lot of people that was actually interested in it. We could have probably sold it for more, but it was a matter of convenience. It was someone that we could work with really well in terms of finding the highest bidder at the time. I mean, you could always sell it for more, but that wasn't what we were trying to do. We just wanted convenience was more important. So that's what we're going to be doing. So now that I'm out, we need two cars. The Fortuner is quite old. It's 13 years old already. So it might have reliability issues. I mean, it's running well right now. I've never had any issues with it, but it's just for safety's sake, we need to get a second car. So picking that up, and then what happened to the other car? Well, the police have it, and they've been using it for their own personal use. Well, how do I know? Well, because back even then during my inquest, where they take me to settle formal charges within the law over here, it's like you have 3 days where they take you to an inquest where the public prosecutor will tell you what the formal charges are against you. And when I was taken there, the complainants were the police and the complainants were there, and I was taken there the by the special police service. The police themselves were using my car to take themselves and the complainants to the inquest. I repeat, they took the car because they say it's part of evidence, which is of course an excuse. But when you're taking a car for evidence, it doesn't mean you're allowed to use it for business purposes. It doesn't mean you're allowed to use it for personal purposes. And that's the law. It's evidence. They're not allowed to touch it. Anything that's evidence, they're not allowed to use it for both personal or business use. You can't be saying, oh, we're taking this car and we're going to use it to take the complainants. Why? Why are you taking it? Why? Because you don't have a car, or yeah. And this is much nicer. This car is brand new. It's got air conditioning. The car we would use, it would be shaking, and it would be a government issued. It's not as nice as this car. Well, that's the reality here in the Philippines, and that's why I always kind of emphasize. I'm just checking if I'm still using the same phone, because I don't know if I'm too cheap, or because like I said, I don't want to spend another $500 on if this works, then great. If it's not, I'm just gonna break this camera in half because it's been 3 days. But I'm using the internal memory instead of the SD card. I put the SD card in here, and that might be the problem. So I tried to have it read directly into it, and it was still corrupt. So I'm hoping that this video turns out and it's not corrupt. If it does, I'm gonna have to redo this thing all over again. But anyway, back to what I was saying. This is the reality. Of course, there's the law. You can't use any evidence for your own personal business use, but the police are going to do it anyway because they can. Why did they do it? It's not whether it's against the law or not, whether it's right or wrong or not. It's about I do it because I can. Regardless it's if it's against the law or not. That's just the stark reality of here in the Philippines. Why I can go into all day why people do the things they do here. I mean, it's culture. It's people over here are just victims of their circumstance, of their environment. I repeat, when you're just a victim and you're just a result of the environment, then you're just predelegated to whatever that environment is. So in this situation, their environment is okay, we have no car to use, the government or the government issued car is not up to par. Or and then there's this car, we have the keys, it's brand new, so we're gonna use it. Are we supposed to not use it? Yeah, we're not supposed to not use it, but who's gonna complain or who's gonna care that we're breaking the law and we're using the evidence for both personal and professional use? Who? We got the guns. Anybody who complains, everybody knows the culture over here. I've already pointed out that they're gonna make it a big problem. So it gets to a point where it's the culture of what's the word I'm looking for? Impunity, that they can do whatever they want because we carry the guns here and we're the law. And if you file a complaint against us, oh, I finally figured out what the word is for these. Here's a PG. It's nubs. I was trying. You see these little nubs right here. While I was in prison, I couldn't get rid of the nubs because I wasn't allowed to have something sharp. So I put this together while I was in prison, and it has a lot of nubs. Unfortunately, a lot of the nubs were undergated, so you didn't see it. But anyway, I was just looking at it and I said, "Hey, what's the word I was looking for? Nubs." All right, so back to what I was saying. The reality over here. Yes, there are laws, but laws fall into second priority when it comes to the immediate needs. It's like I always say, the people just live for the now and what they immediately need. And when it's like, okay, they immediately need a car. Well, why use a beat up car that's issued by the government? Oh, I have this. When you can have a nice car. So, hold on, let me check. Let me test if this thing is playing properly. Okay, so far so good. It's working. So we'll work with that for now. It's like 7 minutes, and I tested it. It's replaying. It's fine. So we'll continue. So, like I said, when people are living in the now, or people are, cause their immediate needs of their environment is the priority compared to what's going to happen tomorrow or next week or even next month. So you're not worried about that when you have pressing immediate needs right now. So part of their immediate needs was using my car, the new car, for both personal and at some point there was a point where I thought, man, I think maybe that car was cursed. But I mean, it's just a car. But they used it, so I hardly got a chance to use it. I just picked up the new car at that time because the i10 was acting up, and I got enough support. Thanks for the people who supported it to get a new car, but only to be used by the police ever since. And what I'm gonna do about it right now, that's another issue. I mean, carnapping here in the Philippines by the police is another issue we'll talk about another time. It's very common. That's how they take a lot of SUVs, and it's pretty common knowledge. So I repeat, of course, not all police do that, but there are some that do. So I have to always do a disclaimer. Not all police steal cars. It's just in my situation specifically, they do. They carnap and they use it for both professional. I mean, if I look at, I have records that say that that it's brand new. I bought it that same week, and if there's like 100,000 miles on it, well, then we got some serious issues if we can even find it. So anyway, I think the biggest problem of that car was it was paid cash, so uh, there was no point that it was going to be repossessed. So that was kind of unfortunate for me. I mean, normally paying for a car for a cash is good, but not in this situation. Here in the Philippines, what's normally good can work out very normally bad for you. I mean, but so I mean that's spilled milk. It's you have to move on, and and well, what I'm going to be doing today is picking up a new car. Am I going to be vlogging about it eventually in the future? But right now, like I said, I got some unfinished business with the police. And the first thing you're probably saying, oh, well, I thought we discussed in the last discussion that you said that it's not a good idea to file a case against the police. And yes, I absolutely agree with you. I'm putting myself in danger, but I'm not the problem over here because the police not only I already showed documentation that the police not only filed one case against me, not only they filed two cases against me, they filed three cases against me. So clearly that states for a fact, not an opinion, that the police is not going to stop unless I'm in prison or I'm underground or something. It's just saying that they're not. This is and the reason why. I mean, I could show you again for the people who haven't seen it. This is the number, the reason why, one of the many reasons why this document, and I have other several documents, that this is this is 475,688 pesos and 59 centavos. I repeat, 475. So almost they have a half a million reasons why. The police have a half a million reasons why this document and me need to disappear. So that's why their plan was to bury me in court for the next 5 to 10 years on technicalities, and just and the process is so freaking long that for them 5 to 10 years is perfect. And in my situation, it was only 3 years, and the reason why it was only 3 years versus 5 to 10 years of burying me, like I said, the police were relentless, and this is the reason why, is because I am innocent, period. Now, you can say whatever you want, and you can accuse me of whatever you want, but the judge still has to decide, and we still have to have evidence of, remember, I'm innocent, and it's the burden on the prosecution to prove that I'm guilty. So, but in my situation, there's a saying where saints are all guilty until proven innocent. I repeat, saints are all guilty until proven innocent. Do I fall in that category? I don't know, but I definitely am in the category of I am guilty until proven innocent. I think part of it is the crimes involved. They're so heinous that people want to believe that a person is guilty right away. Why would you accuse somebody of those things if there's some if it isn't true? I mean, they're so heinous. Why would you accuse somebody? And here's the reason why. This is the reason why. A half a million reasons why. Over here, and people are very simple. They're driven by, I mean, of course, hunger, biologically, sleep, sex, and then there's money. I mean, money means life over here, and here's half a million reasons why. And what law will they break to do it? And if the police are watching this, they know. I mean, they know. I'm not saying anything that they already don't know. So this makes it a very dangerous situation for me and my family. This number right here and other documents that I possess. And I know the first thing you're going to say is, well, don't file a case against the police, then they won't bother you anymore. And I said, that's wishful thinking. Like I said, as long as this exists, they're going to be relentless like they were before. And I have to be mindful of that. I repeat, you have to accept the fact that it's better that they're not going to give up versus wishful thinking that they're going to give up, because you're going to put yourself in a very dangerous situation. But like I said, the judges are the one that decide, and everybody will have their day in reckoning. Every dog has his day, and eventually If I keep fighting and surviving long enough, I will have mine. And maybe, who knows, maybe I'm already starting it. But the fact that I am vlogging is a blessing in itself. So let's back when we're talking about judges. Let's go back to this document over here because it's going to be. I have to set it up. It's going to be in terms of the situation. I think the biggest problem people are having is accepting my innocence, even though three judges have already made their decision. I repeat, not just one judge, not just two judges, but three judges have already made the decision whether I'm guilty or innocent. So, but before we get into that, I think that the biggest struggle that people are saying is that, oh, because I have money or I paid them off. And there's nothing further from the truth. As you could see over here, it became a problem for me that instead of helping me, the money hurt me. So the first thing people was saying, number one, is I won because I bribed somebody. I bribed the judge. I bribed, which is nothing further from the truth. And number two is I won on a technicality, and I wanted to show you where I couldn't win on any technicality. Period. So the first one is money. I already showed you that the money was already working against me, and that it's like it's when people say, "Oh, I paid him off with money." I mean, everybody makes it sound so simple. Once you have money, all your problems will go away. There's nothing. People want to say that there's nothing more ignorant when people say that. When I hear people saying that, it's like, especially after I went through, experienced it personally. People say, "Oh, he just paid it off." There's nothing more ignorant. And why people would say that, to show their ignorance, it's we have to ask why. Are they insecure? Are they jealous? I mean, that's probably the number one reason why a lot of the people would say those things, is when somebody's ignorant and jealous and insecure. I mean, if that's your problem, I guess I don't want to really dive into that right now. I could. It will take me like 8 hours to talk about it. But I just want to address that just you can't just say things like that, because these are people's livelihoods, that you can't be, they could, it's a serious problem. You can't make statements like that without any evidence. It's considered libel and slander. I repeat, then the people, the officers of the court, the judges, the lawyers, if you're saying that, that's libel and slander without any proof of it, that you're saying that they got bribed or they were corrupted. Nothing further from the truth. Anyway, I'll give you, if I give you an example, I mean, lawyers over here, like I said, I had two lawyers. My first lawyer, that's another story in itself. Why I had two lawyers, because the first lawyer, I didn't fire him, he quit. I repeat, he quit because the kitchen got too hot for him, because he was unethical, and it caught up with him, and he had to excuse himself. And the boss had to scramble for another lawyer. There was a point where I had no lawyer because the first one was so unethical. Unethical lawyers, that's kind of redundant. Let's stick to the fact that all the people, all the people over here have gambling problems, especially lawyers, even lawyers. I'm not saying all lawyers, I'm just saying generally speaking. Specifically with my lawyer, he had a habit of the casinos. They knew him on a first name basis, and also chicken fighting. He was very famous in that scene also. So any money I gave him, let's say, for argument's sake, I give it to him for bribing purposes, as people are accusing me of. I could give him 1,000,000 pesos. I give him 10 million pesos. Hell, I can give him 100 million pesos. Everybody, it's pretty clear, if you got a lawyer that's a gambling habit, that's only 5 minutes in a casino. It doesn't matter if it's 1 million. It doesn't matter if it's 10 million. If it doesn't matter if it's 100 million. That's only 5 minutes in a casino. Well, how do I know? Well, proof that proof that he had to let me go. Did I do it? Did I bribe? Did I do it? No, I didn't. But I already knew I don't need to do it to know that that's what's going to happen. As it was progressing, and they're like, oh well, BebotsOnly, isn't that libel and slander? No, that's pretty common knowledge that he had a gambling problem. And if I did give him money, that's where it would go. And that's the last thing I want, is to give money and it would end up gambling. So why would I do anything that stupid? I repeat, I couldn't give any money, even if I did have the money, or even if I did want to, because I knew exactly where the money was going to go. It was going to be wasted, and it was just going to be used for gambling. When you have to understand, here in the Philippines, when you give somebody money and they're holding it in their hand, the first thing they're going to do, and it's for something else. For example, it's for tuition, it's for electricity, it's for medicine. It's never going to go to tuition. It's never going to go to electricity. It's never going to go to medicine. And it's definitely not going to go to any decision that for the courts to make that will go into my favor. This is why we're going into this document over here. So none of that will happen. So I didn't have that option. There was no way I would be throwing away good money after that. It was clear to me with the first lawyer I was dealing with that this was not going to be. So I'll go into more in detail about how that is the dumbest, most ignorant, most insecure thing anybody will say about my case anyway, about money. Okay, so first thing people will say is money because of this and that, and I already clearly, you can give money if you know Vito Corleone, and I've said that before, then the case will go away. But there are no Vito Corleones over here. I repeat, you're just watching too many movies, and you think that this, because you watched the movie and this happened to this movie, or you heard this rumor, or you heard that chismis, or you heard that story, all of a sudden you think it applies over here, where the reality is so far distant from what your perception is. I repeat, reality is not something that you're have any experience with like I do. Okay, I specialize in reality because I experience it every day. You just hear stories and you watch too many movies. So back to what I was saying is, so the next one was, I went on a technicality, schmecticality. Okay, so that's the first thing. No, nobody wants to believe that I could actually be innocent. That would be too easy, or that would be too dumb, or it would mean that you were secure, right? Even though 3 judges have already decided, you're still going to say, oh, he's guilty, but he just, because of money or because of technicality, that he was acquitted. So let's get into the technicality part. And what I have here is a document for motion for inhibition. I repeat, motion for inhibition. I go, why? Because one of the judges, remember I have 3 judges that I had to deal with, or that I had to be part of this dance with. This judge, let me set it up for you. He scared the heebie-jeebies out of me because, let me give you his background. I actually Googled him, and he was actually like the top 1% of the bar exam. Like, they do percentages, and he was like 97.1% so this guy is intelligent. I mean, you could make arguments, oh well, that the bar exam in the Philippines, or it's still an exam, he still has to compete within his peers, and to be able to achieve 97.1% of a national exam is very impressive. So it means this guy is very smart. He's very intelligent. He doesn't make decisions. And some people are just born smart, and they're naturally talented to be intelligent. And this person clearly was, after going through law school and passing the bar exam. So this judge is smart. Okay, he's not dumb. He's not gonna. So for any of you who are saying that, oh, he just took a bribe, smart people don't do that. They don't need to do that. Next is that he's also a dean and a professor at a big law school here in the Philippines. I repeat, not only did he pass the 1% of the bar exam and this is all public knowledge. I'm not making it up. I could probably pull it up on Google, but I don't want to, you just have to take my word for it. There's no reason for me to lie about a judge's credentials over here. Top 1%. And he's also a dean and professor of a big law school over here. So, and not only that, he wrote a book on law. So he's a professor, he's a dean of a law school, graduate out, and he also wrote a book on top of that, published a book about family law. I think I looked it up. I just, before I did this, I was going to do a whole presentation of this judge, but I decided against it because I mean, all this is public knowledge, obviously, but it was just something I decided to go against. I just, it's better, if one of these situations, it's better to not to know who he is versus to know who he is. I mean, even though he is a presiding judge, I just, no, I didn't think I want that extra attention. Anyway, so I decided to keep his name out of it, and even though it's all public information, you're gonna have to look it up yourself. But even if you really want to know, but I'm just giving you the his background. So this person, so based on that, this person, and he's a judge, and so ethics is very high with this person. And then, so I just want to let everybody know what we're dealing with over here. Uh, it got to what scared me was that his judge is supposed to be impartial. Well, he was doing things that weren't impartial. Well, I'll give you an example. I wish I have paperwork, documentation somewhere. I got a lot of, but that said one of the things he did was he issued. I have complainants. Obviously, he issued an arrest warrant. I repeat, an arrest warrant for the witnesses of the prosecution. Can you believe that? I've never heard of that, or no one's ever heard of that. He issued an arrest warrant. What happened was there was a misunderstanding about the dates of the witness of the prosecution didn't show up. So about the dates, and the judge said to make sure that this doesn't happen again. He really wanted this case to go on, to continue. So he says for this not to happen again, he issued an arrest warrant for the next hearing. Because if they, if this happens again, they don't, hearing had to be reset. But it was the police didn't bring the witness, then he was gonna issue an arrest warrant, something for the police to force or just to make sure that the trial continued. So I said, so that's one thing. And also, because remember, they didn't have a search warrant to use to open my electronic gadgets. We filed a motion for to block the evidence that didn't have any search warrant. I repeat, block any evidence. Well, if they wouldn't have a case, if they didn't have any of my computer information, electronic information, they're saying, well, that's all the evidence is in there. And if you say that we didn't have a search warrant and you blocked it, then we wouldn't have a case. So he said, okay, this judge says, I'll allow it. And he said something very scary at the time during this, all this was going on. I mean, I was in a state of shock, anxiety, attacks. It's like worst case scenarios, fears, years and years. So I, so, so he issues an arrest warrant, unheard of. And the other thing that he said that was scary to me was he said he couldn't dismiss this because of the pressure that was put on the technicality, because there's a lot of external pressure. I don't know what those external pressures are because I'm not privileged to them. What kind of, but he did mention in open court that because this was a certain matter. I think he might have said police matter, but there was something that he said that made me think that, oh, okay, he's being pressured. A lot of it has to do because of the media pressure. There was so much media pressure, so much attention on this case when it first happened. The fact that I was a dual citizen, the fact that this was such a heinous crime, the fact that it was qualified because the complainants are minors, and that it was more than three people, and then they got so much media attention that he was under the microscope. He was that so many people, every time I would show up to these hearings, it would be like a parade of dignitaries and VIPs from the law enforcement that would show up just to watch the circus. It was that I want to say embarrassing, and my attorney, the first attorney, had to point that out. I go, who the hell are these people? Are they witnesses? And they're like, no, they're just part of the police. Well, then let's make a note of it. So and so police officer, major so and so, colonel so and so are here. And for what purpose, we don't know, or they're not part of the prosecution. They're not part of the witnesses. So they're just there to just there to watch the circus. So there was a lot of pressure, a lot of for this to continue. I don't want to say pressure to convict me, but there was definitely the pressure of the judge, because of the high ethics and high morals. That's what I was just depending on, that he was going to be able to see through all this fluff. So all this pressure, okay, he's still a judge. It's his court. He decides, not the pressure from no from the police, from the government, from non-governmental and organizations or governmental organizations. It was his decision. So that was the only thing I was hoping for. But it was all coming to kind of a head, because every decision he made was against me. And I wanted to give you an example of what I was working with, how what do you call that, difficult it was for me. And that's why we got to a point where this judge, we lost the fact that all his decisions and actions were so biased, that we finally filed a motion for inhibition. I repeat, we finally inhibit what? Well, we filed an motion to inhibit the judge. So let me reset this, because it can only handle, I think, 30 minutes. So finally filed a motion for inhibition to inhibit the judge. And they go, and you have to ask why. And it finally came to a head. And this was the straw that broke the camel's back. So what I'll do is I'll read this motion to you, and I can see whether you want to, what your opinion is. Everybody is allowed to their own opinion, but what I usually like to do is stick with the facts, stick with the black and white. So let's read this off. It says, this is the motion for inhibition, and well, I'll just read it to you. And it's pretty much res ipsa loquitur. It speaks for itself. Accused through the undersigned counsel. You know what? I use that word a lot. That Latin phrase a lot, and sometimes I don't even think I'm using it properly. But it's supposed to be the main flavor or the message of the Latin phrase is it speaks for itself, but it's not really used. It's usually used in kind of a in legal situations where who's at fault. And this one, it's not really about who's at fault over here. It's about there's no need to explain if I just read it to you. So the Honorable Court issued an order denying the undersigned's urgent ex parte motion for resetting, ordering the waiver of the right of the accused to counsel and the waiver of the right of the accused to cross-examine the prosecution witness to wit. So it pretty much that says I was denied my own counsel of my own choice, and I was denied to the right to cross-examine my accuser. So that's everybody's God-given legal right. Which no one can take. No judge, no God, nobody in the government can take away from your right to your own counsel of your own choice, number one. And number two, you can't be denied the right to cross-examine or to face your accuser. But I was denied that. Nevertheless, there is before the court an urgent motion for resetting filed by the counsel for the accused. My attorney is actually my second attorney, which is he's good. but he has his pros and cons, which I'll go into it. But good enough is what I'll say right now. The same is hereby denied, considering that the hearing of this case has already been unduly delayed with already a couple of warnings to the regular counsel of the accused. So they're saying, oh, it's been delayed. That's why they wanted to continue it. After having advised the accused of the consequences of his decision to not to have presence of regular counsel, or in the alternative, not to get another counsel or to refuse the representation of the power lawyer, he is deemed to have waived his right to counsel at this point, also considering that he cannot cross-examine for himself. He also deemed to have waived the right to cross-examine the witness. So here we go. We go into the grounds for inhibition and discussion. For a better understanding and appreciation of what really transpired, the court was saying that this has been delayed. This is the fourth setting, actually. So they're saying that it's been delayed 4 times, and the judge is saying that you had plenty of chances to continue this trial today, and we're going to continue it whether you like it or not. And since you don't have a lawyer here present, we deny you your right to counsel, and we deny you your right, because he's saying we had 4 chances to correct this, which is furthest from the truth. He's saying that we had 4 chances, which is not true. And this is the black and white letter Y. It's transpiring the previous hearing. So this case below is the chronological sequence of events leading to the unconstitutional, biased, and erroneous order dated of the presiding judge, which clearly shows his principles, his prejudice and disdain to the detriment of the accused. I repeat, his prejudice and disdain, or you could say bias, to the detriment of the accused. The first setting for the cross-examination, because it was a time for us to do a cross-examination. The prosecution complaint, the complaining witness was on, while undersigned counsel was still on his way. My lawyer was on his way to the trial, as you can see here, to the court, and without concurrence, without warning, the hearing was reset. I repeat, so you talk about four chances. Well, the first chance it was reset. My lawyer was on his way to the trial, and he got a message saying that it was reset. And the reason why is the non-availability of the assigned public prosecutor. I repeat, non-availability is, so that was documented. The first one, reset. Well, that's one of the reasons why these hearings take so long, is it'll get reset and you have to wait another month or 2 months before you get another hearing. So as you can see, the non-availability, and that's all documented here. So this was relayed by my wife, who happened to, she was in court. Upon learning that it was reset, was rescheduled on a date which the undersigned counsel is not available due to a previously scheduled hearing before RTC court. He had that date that he was given, he wasn't consulted for, and so the undersigned, and immediately my wife told him to tell the court and the staff that he has a schedule that day. So the wife of the accused was told by the branch clerk of the court to tell the undersigned to just file a motion to reset. So we had the motion reset to appear in the previous scheduled and an equally important case before branch 60, and this is another case. So let's get to the next one. So the motion, the undersigned also requested that the hearing be reset in its earliest. So he gave a bunch of dates at the motion to reset of what's available, and like I said, with this judge, the motion to reset, because he obviously gave a schedule, and this schedule that he had was already set before the judge set the schedule. So it was a conflicting schedule, and he gave other available options. He gave a bunch of available dates, but this judge denies it, completely denies it, says that's your problem, not mine, which is not something that judges would normally. Of course, it's at their discretion, they're the judge, but most judges would say, okay, then they'll use this date. But for some reason, this judge didn't want to accept. This was the date that was set by the court. So the second setting for the cross-examination, here we go. Second again, the hearing was once again reset because the assigned trial prosecutor was reportedly not available. So there was 2 hearings that got reset, which we had nothing to do with. It was because the prosecutor wasn't available. Okay, that's not our fault that the prosecutor was. Second reset, prosecutor was unavailable, but we're still getting blamed for it. The honorable court still possessed reset, so we had another reset hearing, and that hearing he also is not available. So he gave another bunch of dates. Says, okay, I'm available this date, I'm available that date. He says here it would be physically impossible for the undersigned to do so because he was already previously committed to an equally important case before, and he gave supporting document. These are the dates. Please don't schedule a trial during these dates where I have a trial in another court. That's what he said. And then during the third, this was my fault, or I was part of it. During the third hearing, the Bureau of Jail and Management and Prisons didn't bring me to court. So we were all set to go that day, but I wasn't brought to court. It wasn't my fault. So the first 2 hearings where the prosecution didn't show up. Third hearing, the prison didn't take me to court. So the judge saying that was the motion for resetting by undersigned counsel was ordered to have been rendered mute and academic since I wasn't brought there in the first place. However, despite the motion was filed specifying available dates, when the next available date is, once again, they keep assigning him to dates that he already has a schedule for, that he already gave him a list, and he gave him a list of available dates. So here we go. We go to the fourth. So this is basically saying that that he can't make it to this fourth setting. So on the fourth trial, or on the fourth attempt, for the cross-examination of the prosecutor's complaining witness, the honorable court issued above order denying the motion to reset. So the judge wanted to continue the case, even though I didn't have a lawyer. So the judge wanted to continue it, even though I didn't have a lawyer. So motion for resetting is by undersigned is found on a meritorious ground. We have like legitimate reason for him not to, because he had another trial, and so he gave all of these dates, and the honorable court will set the hearings and in the other dates where his undersigned is not available. So it's payment. So it's just basically saying that. So this is what happened to that day. To make the matters worse, during the proceeding for the instant case, the judge unceremoniously denied the motion to reset filed by us and made rulings and uttered statements which are not in accordance with the law. I repeat, they're not in accordance with the law, and expected and required from a presiding judge as follows. So here's the court. Okay, so here's a sample of the transcript. It says, court, okay, so your counsel is not here. Okay, so you also do not have new counsel. So this court is now appointing you the lawyer of public attorney's office. PAO means public attorney's office, to act as your counsel for today's hearing. What do you say to that? And me, I say, I decline it, Your Honor. I exercise my right to have private counsel. So the court says, or the judge says, so you're refusing? And I said, yes, Your Honor, I'm refusing. Okay, so the judge says, okay, to show in the record that the accused does not have his regular counsel because he filed a motion to reset, and the judge denied it. He hasn't secured a new counsel, and that he's refusing the service of the PAO. I mean, I'll get into reason why we didn't do that. We had other strategies ongoing. Next point before this court is an urgent motion for resetting. And so he says it's denied. The motion to reset to a schedule was denied. So he says he gives me 30 minutes within which time to think about it. You can call your counsel, new counsel, or engage the services of the spouse. So he gave me three choices. I got 30 minutes to decide. Okay, because he denied the motion to reset, so the trial was going to continue, even though my lawyer was at another trial. You can call your so I can call another lawyer, which is going to be impossible to do in 30 minutes, especially since I'm in handcuffs. So that was kind of he just said it as to be academic. You have 30 minutes to get another private lawyer, or if you don't, you're going to have to use the services of the public attorney's office. So you have a right to an attorney, but he's denying me my right to my attorney of my choosing. Otherwise, you would be deemed to waive the right to cross-examine the private complainant. This case has been delayed with already a couple of warnings, and he's saying warning to us when the first three was obviously the reason why was the prosecutor didn't show up the first two, and the next one was the prison didn't bring me to court. What there was the reasons why I could probably get into that, but they didn't bring me. I just wait and hope they bring me, and they didn't bring me, and I was wondering why they didn't bring me. What were all the reasons why? And you would have to ask them, the Bureau of Corrections, why. And somebody's gonna say, "Oh, because you paid them off to not bring that." That's like, how am I supposed to do that? So none of that. So I said, "Yes, Your Honor." So I mean, but that's what people were thinking, and I don't know why they didn't bring me. I always go when they bring me. I just follow whatever. If they bring me, they bring me. I can't sit there and complain and says, "Hey, I have a hearing today. Can somebody please bring me to court?" And unless they have the paperwork that says to bring me, they're not going to bring me. So I remember that day now. It's like when I asked "Hey, I have a court hearing today. I have it on schedule," and they said they never received an order. We have no order to bring you to court, is what their reason was. So they're not going to bring me unless there was an order to bring me to court. At that date, there was no order. Why? Maybe the secretary or the administration didn't send the order, and that happens. I mean, you got government workers. Sometimes they're busy and they forget things. They think they did it and they didn't, and the day came, and so what? Then we'll just reset it another time. No big deal. And big deal to me because I have to wait in prison. So if your decision is still the same, you can't cross-examine the private complainant anymore. So the judge is saying if you don't take the POW, you're denying your right to cross-examine your accuser. So the judge asked, "What's your decision?" My decision is, I exercise my right to private counsel of my own choosing. And I think he said, do you like the public attorney's office or not? I think that's what he said before. I would have to go to the original transcript. And he says, "I'm not saying I don't like the public attorney's office. I'm just saying I'm sure he's a excellent public attorney. I'm just saying I just choose the private counsel that's been with me from the beginning of the trial, the second one anyway." The judge says, not that you don't want him personally, you just don't want him to be your counsel. We don't take things here personally. Ha ha ha. Let me just ask the POW. So this is what the public attorney's response to that is. This is the public defender's response to the judge. Okay, he says, the judge says, "Are you ready to defend the witness?" And the public prosecutor says, "Given the fact, Your Honor, that I just entered my appearance today, it would be best to reset the hearing, Your Honor." That's what he said. I'm not ready to defend him. He tells the judge is assigning him to me against my will, against my rights. And I already on record said that I decline him, and he's asking him, "Are you ready to defend him?" And this is what the public defender says. "I just made my appearance today, and it would be best to reset the hearing, Your Honor." And Your Honor says, "No, you were given instruction already." So he was already told that he's gonna be my attorney by the judge previously, even though it was reset by the prosecutor's office, and he already knew that we already set a motion and he was gonna deny it. And he told the public defender, "Hey, I told you instructions already before." I would have to say off record that he was going to be my attorney against my wishes. While we appreciate the efforts of the Honorable Court towards the speedy disposition of the instant case by offering the appointment of the counsel of the public attorney's office, the proceedings for the instant of the case, the accused has categorically manifested his desire to be represented by a counsel of his own choosing. The Honorable Court turned a deaf ear to this manifestation of the attorney from the public attorney's office. But since he just entered his appearance that very day, it would be best to reset the hearing. The judge still wouldn't allow it. So this was the straw that broke the camel's back. We've had enough. This judge has always been biased and unfair with all his decisions. He's impartial, and now he's just blatantly denying my right to counsel. He's blatantly denying my right to cross-examine my accuser. So we said, time to motion for inhibition for this judge. So worth noting, stressing at this juncture is the glaring fact that the failure of the counsel for the accused to appear on the scheduled dates made by Monroe was never intentionally made to delay the proceedings. It is by reason of a previously scheduled hearings before, in fact, for another court, and then the other previous was reset by the prosecution. Was not available due to so the undersigned counsel did not intend to delay the proceedings of the instance case. This is very evident of the fact when the first motion for resetting was filed. Undersigned counsel immediately declared him an honorable court. However, despite stating the several dates available, the court wouldn't accept it, intended to schedule the hearings. So my attorney gave the court a list of dates that he already can't make it, and they intentionally, and these dates were made years before they made the date. So we have one judge saying, okay, my hearing is more important than that hearing, so even though it was already, that one was set before mine was, you're gonna have to show up to mine, which he couldn't do. So he was already committed to the other one, and this one had to be reset. Given the foregoing that there is no justifiable reason for the Honorable Court to insist on the appointment of the power lawyer to be the counsel for the accused, the statement of the Honorable Presiding Judge that the case has been particularly the cross-examination has been unduly delayed with already about a couple of warnings and no basis. So he's saying that the reason why the judge is continuing the trial because we delayed it has no basis, because the first two was the prosecution did not attend the trial, and number two, the prisons, the Bureau of Prisons did not have an order to take me to trial. So that was the first three. And this one, they scheduled it again, where it was to a date which was he wasn't available. And if you give somebody a list of the dates where you don't have available and they still do it, I mean, then they're doing it on purpose. So this was, and then he gave it a list of available dates, and they still continued to choose the dates where he's not available. Then it was clearly we were dealing with somebody that was not impartial. That's what we're saying in our documents over here. Had the Honorable Judge set the hearings date on dates where the accused committed to be available, the accused would not have been deprived of his right to cross-examine the complaining witness through the counsel of his own choice. So here, the complete disregard and deprivation of the accused's constitutional rights by Honorable Judge did not end there. In the same proceedings, the following transpired. Accused me, I says, I want my right to cross-examine the witness by my private lawyer. The judge says, okay, so despite the manifestation of the POW, the public defender, he is ready to cross-examine, even though he just said he wasn't ready to cross-examine. The judge is saying he's ready to, even though the public defender just said that he's ready to cross-examine for the behalf of the accused maintains that he's not hiring the services of the POW. The court wants to explain to you that if the court gives its ruling, your cross-examination will be waived. So the prosecution says, that's the effect of your decision. The judge says, that's the effect of your decision. And as the accused, I understand. I just want to clarify that it's never my decision. I just want to put in record that it's not my decision. It's the effect of the decision. So the judge says, yes, if you understand that the effect of your decision is the waiver of your right to cross-examine the witness, And as the accused, I say I didn't say I waiver my right. I don't want them putting words in my mouth, and because this is official document saying that the judge is saying I waived my right, and I said I needed to clearly say I did not say I waiver any of my rights. The judge says that would be the effect. The court will consider it wavered. You see what I'm dealing with here? I just said that I don't waive any of my rights, but the judge says yes, but the effect says because you made your decision not to accept the public defender who stated that he's not ready to defend you, the court will consider your rights have been, you waived your rights. Even though I say I didn't waive my rights, the judge waived my rights, and he's saying that I did it voluntarily. So that would be the effect. The court will consider it wavered. Prosecution says right now he doesn't have counsel. So this is the prosecution's statement to this. So right now his statements will not be, I'm not sure why it's cut off. His statements are not counseled. So I can't really talk, or I can't really make a decision because I have no counsel. So anything I say at that point would be considered not, or anything I say because admissible, or it doesn't have any, doesn't have much say because I don't have a lawyer present in court. I declined the public defender who clearly stated that he wasn't ready to defend me. So even the prosecutor said, well, any of his statements are not counseled, so they can't be enforceable. I can't say, there's nothing I could say at this point is not going to be admissible because there was no private, I have no lawyer at that time. So the judge is addressing me. So he says, the above formula clearly shows the bias and prejudice exhibited by the judge against the accused. Even the public prosecutor was mindful of my constitutional rights of the accused, and even made efforts to put on record that the statements of the accused were not counseled, yet the judge blatantly disregarded it all. To our minds, the case cannot be decided with impartiality and genuine justice, considering that even constitutional rights of the accused to counsel and to cross-examination the witness was ordered waived by the judge, despite glaring fact that the accused stated that he's not waiving his rights. Furthermore, accused was not even represented at counsel when these rights were ordered or deemed as waived. So it is with utmost respect and furtherance of the constitutional rights of the accused, we move for inhibition of the judge. So here's an example of the reasons why it's Section 1, when a judge is disqualified. No judge or judicial officer shall sit in any of which, so this, if you have family members, you can't, so that's Section 1. A judge may exercise his sound discretion to disqualify himself for sitting in a case for just or valid reasons other than mentioned above. So but a judge could still exist. This is the main problem with this motion. The judge that will decide whether it's not another judge or another circuit or another panel that's going to decide. It's the same judge that we're asking, can you please inhibit yourself from sitting in our trial because you're biased? And so you're probably asking, well, why are you asking the same person? Because obviously he's going to deny it. And then our strategy was that in case the decision goes wrong, that we were going to file for an appeal, and an appeal can take 3 to 10 years to finally be considered and decided. But we had no choice. We had to go this direction anyway because we feel like that we were losing the case because the judge clearly was making decisions that were scaring the daylights out of us. Every decision he was making was like, nope, sorry, against you. So we were scared of the final decision. Canon 3, impartiality. Impartiality, judges shall perform their duty without favor, bias, or prejudice. The judges here can conduct court, enhance confidence, and impartiality, just reasonable conduct. So these are just sections explaining judges shall disqualify themselves. So the judge has to accept our inhibition. So from participating in proceedings which they are unable to decide the matter of impartiality, or in which it may appear to a reasonable observer that they are unable to decide the matter of impartiality. So we wanted to show, in case we have to go on appeal, that this judge was impartial, that we could win, then there's your technicality right there, that we could win on a technicality. But obviously, it didn't get to that point. But I just wanted to show you the kind of judge that we were dealing with, that he wasn't going to make any decisions to favor us, if anything, to my detriment. But even then, the decision was still the final decision. But before, when this was going on, it was up in the air. In light of foregoing, it is therefore the most respectfully prayed by the accused or the undersigned presiding judge disqualify from hearing the case for the incident to be re-raffled to a new court. So we're saying the new date, the new trial date should be reset and re-raffled to another court with a different judge. So a judge may not be legally from sitting in litigation, but when litigation is made for a record that he might be induced to act in favor of one party or with bias or prejudice against the litigant arising out of circumstance reasonable, capable of inciting such a state of mind, he should conduct a careful self-examination. He exercise his discretion in a way. So we're asking the judge, please excuse yourself, because your biasness is just not happening here. So we're therefore be raffled motion, blah, blah, blah. So that's pretty much the end of our motion right there. Respectfully submitted. So if you look over here, he already submitted like all these dates that where he wasn't available, and there's like a second page of this where all these dates are where he already submitted to them that these are trial dates that he already is committed to. And there's another page because this one's just for the prosecution, and it's pretty long. This one in Angeles City over here, it's for kidnapping for ransom with homicide, so that's one count. There's another one for kidnapping and serious illegal detention. So we got homicide, kidnapping, and then we have one for carnapping. So this case had a long list of trial dates, and he already submitted it. So this is part of the supporting document. And we also have other supporting documents saying that we did not reset the first three trials. The first two was the prosecutor wasn't available, and the second one was there was no order to take me to the hearing. So finally it came to the fourth trial, which he clearly said over here in the supporting document, he has trials on these dates for this serious kidnapping, ransom. What happened with that? I don't know yet. Usually when it comes to these kind of high organized crime kind of situations, I don't really want to get into right now. Okay, so far so good. I just transferred the first wave of files into the computer and it's working. So far I'm using the internal memory of this cell phone. So I'm going to go and continue the vlog here. It's gone long enough, like an hour already. But I just wanted to give you the complete transcript of the trial where we had no choice but to decide that this judge was biased. And if he decides to rule against us or to judge against us, or it's unfavorable and we have to go on appeal, then we use this as a strategy. We motion to inhibit him because he was biased, and hopefully we could win the appeal. But we were trying to prepare for the future, which is a scary thought, considering appeals could last anywhere from 5 to 10 years. You could win, and if you won the appeal and you were wrongly in jail for all those years, then you get this what's called a daños, which we are paid money for being in jail. But the problem with that is you're paid only like 20 pesos a day. I repeat, 20 pesos a day. So that's not worth going to prison for. You'll get 20 pesos a day for the next 10 years, but at least it's something. It's better than nothing. It's probably your argument. But anyway, let's get to the court says, the judge says, called the case. The interpreter says, for the initial presentation of prosecution's evidence, criminal case, blah, blah, blah. So the prosecution says, good morning, Your Honor. For the government, public attorney says, good morning, Your Honor. I have talked to the accused in the case and he refuses the services of the public attorney office, invoking his right to counsel, Your Honor. That's my right. And then the court says, the judge says, okay, see your wife here, ma'am. To the court, during the last hearing, you were instructed by the court to deliver a message to the lawyer. So number one, for him to appear for you to secure another lawyer. And then third, the public defender says you inform your lawyer. And my wife says, yes, I did, Your Honor. So the record show that the wife the accused, what's your name? She says her name, full name. So the court says, okay, so your counsel is not here. Okay, so you're also going to have a new counsel to this court. So this is the second call after the 30 minutes we were allowed. So appointing the lawyer. So we were actually saying, okay, go ahead and try to appoint and try to waive. So this is kind of our way of trying to set up the appeal by going through with it for today's hearing. So what do you say to that? And I said, the accused, I decline it, Your Honor. I exercise my right to have private counsel of my own insurance. So you're refusing. Accused says, yes, Your Honor. Judge says, okay, so just to show you in the record that the accused does not have this regular counsel, he has secured new counsel, and that he's refusing the services of POW. Next point before the court is the motion to reset filed by the regular counsel for the accused. So the same is hereby denied. So he denies our motion to reschedule. You have 30 minutes within which to think about. You can call your counsel, new counsel, or engage the services of the public defender. Otherwise, you'll be deemed to have waived your right to cross-examine. So deemed to waive my right. So this case has been particularly the cross-examination has already been unduly delayed with already about a couple of warnings. So to your regular counsel. So he's saying that he already warned my counsel before. So 4:30 will call us. Do you understand that? Yes, Your Honor. So as your decision is still the same, you can't cross-examine the private complainant anymore. Second call communication. So you're not sticking to your decision. So you're still sticking to your decision not to present a new lawyer to get your powers. He doesn't want. So the court says he doesn't want you as his counsel. Attorney says, so you decided that you're refusing the services of the POW. Accused, I say, I didn't say that. It's your decision. Attorney says, it's your decision, not mine. Court says, judge says, what's your decision? My decision is I exercise my right to private counsel, and I'm not saying that I don't like him. Court says, not that you don't want him personally, you just don't want him to be your counsel. We don't think so. Let me ask the POW. So I have directed the POW for the past 2 orders to get ready for this case. For this eventuality, you're ready for the cross-examined witness. It says, also given the fact, Your Honor, that I have entered my appearance today, it would be, so this is the public attorney's office. Given the fact that, Your Honor, that I have just entered my appearance today, it would be best to reset the hearing, Your Honor. So the judge says, no, you were given instruction. And the public defender goes, yes, you're right, Your Honor. I think twice. Then, yes, Your Honor. So the public defender was strong-armed or twisted his arm. So, okay, so POW lawyer is ready to defend. So you still refuse? Yes, Your Honor. After hearing that, yes, I definitely I refuse this public defender. So the judge says, okay, I'm asking it for you to be on record. Prosecution says, by the way, can you understand Tagalog? I said, yes, of course. It says, yes, Your Honor. Prosecution says, okay. Accused says, I want my right to cross-examine the witness by my private lawyer. Court says, okay, so despite the manifestation of the public defender, the witness on behalf of the accused maintains that he's not hiring the services of POW. The court just wants to explain to you that if the court gives its ruling, your cross-examination will be waived. That will be the effect of your decision. Do you understand that? And I said, no, that's not my decision. That's the effect of your decision. So I said, so court says, that's the effect of your decision. I understand. I just want to clarify that it's never my decision. I just want to put on record that it's not my decision. It's just the effect of the decision. Court says, if yes, you understand the effect of your decision, the decision is the waiver of your right to cross-examination. Accused says, I didn't say I waiver my right. Court says, that will be the effect. Considered will be you waived your right. Prosecution says, right now he doesn't have counsel, so right now his statements will not be, his own statements are not counseled. Court says, the court is, okay, Your Honor, so after having advised the accused the consequences of the decision to have, number one, the presence of a regular counsel, alternative, he seems to have waived the right to counsel at this point, and also considering he cannot cross-examine for himself, he is also deemed to have waived the right to cross-examine the witness. In view thereof, the testimony of the witness is hereby considered completed and terminated, and before the presence of the court is dispensed. So the next point, fiscal, is do you have another witness? Yes, we have, but since it's already late, we'll continue. So it's already 5:10. Considering today, so you can reset to 5 to 2 o'clock. So you understand what I said? Call your counsel, I have another, I'll accept the service. And so I said, yes, Your Honor. Make it on record, the court explained the accused appears in the next scheduled hearing or he has another counsel or accept the services of the public attorney's office. You understand that? I said yes, Your Honor. So the order, blah, 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 blah. The accused was given 30 minutes within each to think about this counsel after having advised the accused counsel. So this is basically summing it up. So therefore, the witness is completed and terminated. So there was no cross-examination. So it's reset. So what I'm saying here is that I did not win on a technicality because, as you could clearly see, this judge wanted to continue. And well, the worst part about it was that my right to cross-examination was terminated. And so that's what we were thinking, that we were going to win on appeal. The fact that my rights were already waived by not allowing me to have my own counsel, even though I was on record, and denying my right to cross-examine, even though I was on record that I did not waive any rights. We were hoping that we were going to win this on a technicality during the appeal. So fortunately, it didn't get to that point. As you could see that I'm blogging, but I wanted to address the number one, the issue of I won on the technicality. As you could see, there was no technicality. The trial still continued. It was still by the same judge, and it was still the same judge that decided, and whether guilty or not, guilty or innocent, or guilty or acquitted. But as you could see, the judge made sure, and for whatever reasons, that he wanted the trial to continue, to make sure that the witnesses, to make sure, but not, that the witnesses, that everything the prosecution needed to continue the prosecution in their favor, everything from witnesses to not having my own lawyer to not even having the chance to cross-examine, was in their favor. So I've already showed in black and white, I did not win on a technicality. I repeat, I did not win on a technicality. So for all you people that are saying, number one, I won because of money. No, that's the furthest from the truth. Number two, I won in technicality. So there's the only third choice is you're going to have to accept. I repeat, the third choice, you're going to have to accept whether you like it or not. You're going to have to get past your own insecurities and jealousy. Accept the fact here in black and white that I did not win on a technicality. So for all those people that say I did, here's in black and white that I say that I didn't. Anyway, this blog has gone long enough. I'm gonna go ahead and slap it together, and you guys can all discuss that. But I wanted to address the most important thing here, that all the technicality people that says that I won a technicality, I did not. So that should settle the argument, so we can move on to, and I've already kind of addressed that, like the whole money part, and which is impossible to do, and I've already mentioned it why. And then so then the last and third option is that the fact that I still won, even though that I didn't even cross-examine one of the witnesses, means that the only possibility is innocence. Anyway, this is BebotsOnly. Thanks for watching. If you like it, give it a like, give it a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. Do you still believe that money was involved? Well, as you can see, money was involved, but not to help me, but against me. And do you believe that I still won on a technicality based on this just this one judge alone? Let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll continue with the further discussion of what happened legally in my case. Anyway, this is BebotsOnly. Thanks for watching. Oh, I wanted to end this on a light note, on a happy note. I was in prison for 3 years, and Hero was in school, and one of his school projects was he had to create this My Shepherd, kind of like a how do you describe this, kind of like a card, and he did this while in school, and it's titled My Shepherd, and it says right there, my dad, my hero, my best friend. And the boss was going through some paperwork, throwing some stuff out, and she found this and she gave it to me while I was gone. He made this, and I wanted to share it with you at the end of this video before I forget. He wrote this card, and it says, "My shepherd is my dad. He takes care of me. He provides everything I need. He takes me to practice soccer, and he even trains me and teaches me to stay fit and healthy. He protects me from the bad people. He's what is it? He's my best friend, and I'm his unconditional love." Oh, how sweet. I love my daddy so much. And for this card, he got a 15 out of 15. So that's what Hero wrote while I was in prison when he was making this card. So it's just to show you that we didn't give up the faith, and we still moved on. And after 3 years, we were able to be reunited again. But I just wanted to share this card with you, saying that I'm the shepherd. And that's what all dad should be. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you, what Hero was doing while I was gone. And I wanted to share you what his thoughts were about his dad. Anyway, this is BebotsOnly. Thanks for watching. Hello, true believers. This is BebotsOnly, and it's been a while since I've done one of these case paperworks, so you can kind of see in black and white what went on with my case or cases. And one of the things that occurred during this whole mess is the notice of withdrawal as defense counsel. Okay, so you can read right there in black and white. Notice of withdrawal as defense counsel. So what does this mean? So let's read this. Okay, so let's just jump right into it, then I'll kind of fill in the rest here. This is a formal notice, a formal letter saying that my first lawyer, my first attorney, is quitting on my case. I repeat, he has put together this formal letter letting the court know notice of withdrawal as defense counsel. Please take note of withdrawal of appearance of the undersigned as defense counsel for the accused. It is thus prayed that all notices and orders from this honorable court be furnished sent to accused address as reflected in the records of the instant case. This notice of withdrawal of appearance is with conformity of the accused through his wife, also the accused, so he informed me through my wife, and also I will personally give this conformity to this withdrawal in the open court. Wherefore, premises considered, it is prayed that this notice of withdrawal appearance be noted. Okay, so this is my attorney. He's got a PTR number. He's got an IBP life member number. IBP, I think it stands for International Board of the Philippines Life Member. So he's pretty certified, as you could see, and this is his law office. So this is one of my cases over here. So as you can see, it's 9208. So human trafficking as amended by 10.3. I think it's as related to cybercrime is, but this is what you need to focus on is the 9208. So it's pretty heavy stuff over here. Human trafficking is serious business. So let's back up here. This lawyer we got through a referral, and I really didn't have much of a choice when it comes to picking lawyers. I deferred it to the boss since she was the one who was outside and I had to defer all the decisions to her because when you're in prison, there's nothing you can do. You're in complete lockdown. You have no communication with the outside world. I have no access to internet, to phones, it's just when the boss visits me is when I only have the communication. Everything else, I'm pretty much locked out. So this was, this person in this area, is like the number one lawyer here. He's pretty famous. He gets a lot of people acquitted. And so he's actually used by other people in prison. For example, there was this one person, he was the mayor before I was the mayor of the prison at that time. and he had the same lawyer, and he was caught with like 10 pounds of crack, meth, crystal meth, like 5 or 10 pounds of crystal meth, and he was able to get him acquitted. So this is how good this person was when it came to drugs. And he has a really good history when it comes to drug cases. He's an expert. So we assume that he had the same expertise when it comes to other cases, including mine. So he said that he's dealt with other worse cases than mine. So he said this was going to be no problem, and so we decided to sign him on because of his reputation of winning and all that, and it seemed like good at the time. But this is the big but is this is what when it comes to lawyers, it comes not just here in the Philippines, lawyers everywhere. Okay, imagine how bad lawyers are in America. Imagine how much worse they are here in the Philippines. And so let's get into why he withdrew. So after we paid him for multiple cases, I don't want to really get into the finances right now. So for like 3 years, our finances were in shambles because of the situation, and lawyer fees are expensive, and they charge per case and they charge per appearance. So it was a lot of money that was being spent on legal lawyer fees. So you're thinking, okay, well, you got the money for lawyers, no problem, right? So this lawyer is going to defend you, no problem, right? So then why is all of a sudden after you paid him, and then is he withdrawing in the middle of a case, in one of the cases that we paid him for several cases? And it's kind of unclear why he let. What happened was I don't really have all the details because I'm just the recipient of the of the negative effects over here. I wasn't part of the decision making, or what was he thinking, or what was he doing. Okay, but when it comes to lawyers over here, they're all pretty crooked. You all can't trust them. The problem, in his defense, he can't say, "Oh, you got the wrong lawyer," or you should have gotten the right lawyer. And in the boss's defense, in my defense, there is no such thing as a right lawyer or a wrong lawyer. It's all about managing the lawyer. They're all the same piece of crap, scum of the earth lawyers. It's a matter of how do you manage them? Can you manage them well enough? Because if you don't manage them, they'll manage you. And because I was in prison, I pretty much had no say or no leverage in the matter, and pretty much the boss has no experience, and she's in constant fear. So pretty much the lawyer, or this lawyer, was pretty much managing her and squeezing as much money out of her as possible by scaring the daylights out of her, saying things like, "Oh, he's guilty, so we're gonna need money for this, we're gonna need money for that." So a lot of that was going on. I'm gonna need money to file this, or I'm gonna need money to file that. So a lot of that was going on in the beginning, and and that's a big reason why I stayed in prison for a long time. Normally, I wouldn't have. If I had the right lawyer, I wouldn't have stayed there that long, just maybe a few weeks, and I would have gotten out. But in this situation, the whole management of this lawyer was all wrong. One of the first things, one of the mistakes that we made was we pretty much paid him up front. So whatever he was asking for, what his acceptance fee was, pretty much paid. And what you should do if you ever run into this is don't pay the acceptance fee, all of it. I mean, they'll bitch and moan and say that, no, I need all the acceptance fee right now. But since they're greedy bastards, they'll pretty much take anything you give them. So the right thing to do was like, okay, I'll give you half now, and I'll give you the other half when it finishes, whatever the acceptance fee is. And like I said, they'll bitch and moan, but they'll take it because they're greedy bastards and they want and they need the money instead of paying up front. And I've already told you, here in the Philippines, because of the culture, once you pay somebody up front, then there's no reason for them to show up to work or even do their work properly. And this kind of set off or triggered something in his mind that says, wow, I'm making all this money and I haven't done anything. I haven't even gotten him out of prison. So what we created, since we didn't know how to manage a lawyer, was that what we did was we trained him, or we taught him, or we showed him that he can make more money keeping me in prison longer than it is to get me out. I repeat, what we did, since we mismanaged him, I'll say we, even though I was in prison, but I mean, I had to sign off on most decisions, and because I didn't have all the information, all the right information, or don't have any experience, we're gonna make a lot of mistakes. Mistakes are made. So the problem was that he decided, like, that he's in this business to make money, and he can make more money if he keeps me in prison as long as possible, because the boss is scared. She's trying to get me out, and she's willing to do anything and spend any kind of money to do this. So he was just following his instructions. Okay, we'll do this, we'll do that, but I'll need money for this. And that's what was happening, until we realized, we got to the point where it's like, well, you know what? Nothing's happening. He's still in prison. Yeah, but I'll need. So it was just milking us for more money, and I don't want to really get into my finances right now, but it was a mess. This lawyer figured out that keeping me in prison longer, so that's the number one reason why I spent a lot of time in prison, because this lawyer decided he would make more money, and then more money keeping me in prison, because we mismanaged him. Okay, we paid him up front. We paid him all his acceptance fee without anything in the back end or for performance incentive. So that's what happened here. And so if that's the case, then why did he withdraw? Well, I think what happened, this is my theory, because I know that the police, now remember, not all police are like this. I'm just saying all the police that I dealt with, since they're corrupt, I know that they were the police, after I think a month or two, the police went to visit my attorney, and he mentioned it to me. Oh, the police stopped by, and I was kind of thinking, what for? The Philippine National Police, this major, this I don't know exactly his rank is, but he's a chief. He's a higher rank, and he said, I go, what did he come by his office for? It was one of the questions that I would ask. The boss would relay this to me, and it would worry the hell out of me. What are they coming together to meet for? He said he was just dropping off some documents, and I said, no, he's not dropping off documents. And I know when it comes to the police, they don't move. The only reason why they would move or go out of their way or put in all this extra effort is because of, number one, money, or number two, pussy. So obviously there's kind of some pussy involved over here, but not directly. But when it comes to money, that's what definitely they were after. And now we got a situation where the police are providing all this work to my attorney. As you could see, cases upon cases, counts upon counts were added on to my case, and my lawyer didn't do anything to attack it, didn't do anything to prevent it, didn't do anything to defend all these cases that were being filed against me. Even though it's not only double jeopardy, not only triple jeopardy, it's like counts upon counts upon in different courts. Didn't do anything to defend it or to stop it from happening. All this human trafficking cases against me, you just let it. I go, what is he doing? What is he doing? And because all these cases that are being filed, isn't it kind of double jeopardy, triple jeopardy? It's like, no, because one is based on the search raid, your house was raided. One, human trafficking, was based on the evidence on the raid, and then the other one was based on the entrapment. So, and then the other one, and then the third one was based on both. So we really couldn't, I couldn't really fight that. You know, they're all separate cases, even though they're the same offense, even though they're triple jeopardy, but they're coming out from different evidences. So he's saying that's why you have all these cases against you. So that's why in his mind, he was like going, "Oh, I hit the lottery, I hit the jackpot, and I'm just gonna keep all these cases continuing." So so it got to a point where the police came to him, and this is what my theory is. It's like, "Hey, we're giving you all this work, you're making all this money, we know this because I told them." The police actually came to me illegally. That's another story in itself, but I'll get into it. You know, the police came to me first before they came to my lawyer, saying, "Hey, we put you in jail, so we're gonna, hey, let's work something out here, so, for you to give us money." And obviously that didn't work out because the deal was me just give the money, and I go, "What do I get in return?" "No, you're in jail, so you just give us money and you do what we say." And I said, "That's a horrible deal. That's a crappy deal." So I told the police, "I'm not going to give you anything because while I'm in jail, I can't do anything." So they went to the next best thing is they went to my lawyer, because I told them, I'm paying him this much. So they went to the lawyer and said, and this is how I assumed the conversation went down, because they met and they said, "Hey, look, we're giving you all this work, we're giving you all this, and where's our money?" So what was going on here is they were in collusion now. The police and my attorney are working together to pile on as many cases as possible, even though, as you could see from the resolution, that they had no basis for it. But that doesn't matter. But because when the police and the lawyer are working in conjunction, in collusion, there's all of a sudden there's a conflict of interest over here. So that's why I'm assuming this is what occurred. And is that illegal? Absolutely, it's illegal. But they're going to say, the police are doing their job, and my attorney is doing his job. Whether he's doing it right or not, the so uh, so so I'm sure they made some kind of arrangement or some kind of agreement during these meetings. Okay, we'll add on cases. It'll give you more work. You'll get more acceptance, money for accepting all that, for us giving you all that work, and we'll share the money. We'll split the money because obviously, if I don't give money to my lawyer, then he's gonna stop defending me, and that's not an option. Giving money to the police, on the other hand, now that's another story in itself that I'll get to later. They were blackmailing me. They were saying the police were blackmailing me while I was in prison, saying that they're watching the children, and they threatened my wife and my children. Imagine that, the police, and because they're blackmailing me, they've got guns, they're threatening me, I'm in prison. So I repeat, I have first-hand experience where the police blackmailed me. They were gonna hurt, threatened my children and my wife while I was in prison to extort money out of me. I repeat, they were extorting money out of me by blackmailing me, by threatening my children and my wife while I'm in prison. That was their deal. It's like, okay, you give us money and we won't hurt your wife and children. And of course, it was scary for me, but number one, I couldn't give them any money because I was in prison. And number two, I couldn't really relay that to the boss and tell her that, like, "Oh, by the way, the police threatened me. The Philippine National Police that we're dealing with here threatened me. They said they were going to hurt you if I didn't give them money." So that didn't work. So that's where they went to my lawyer directly, because they know that I'm paying him directly. So they should be able to get money. And they work together, because police and lawyers work together all the time here in the Philippines. That's pretty much common knowledge. Whether they work together to get you off is one thing, or work together to to put you in there to make more money out of you. That's what was happening with me. I repeat, this lawyer working with police usually gets their his in the case of the drug lord that got away with five. He was in a shootout, was caught with 20 pounds of crystal meth, but he was acquitted, okay, because this lawyer has his way of working with, I assume, working with the system, not saying anything specifically, to be able to get the testimony to the point where it shifted over to favor the where the judgment shifted over to the defense side. So I could see that working out, but it could also work against you. In my situation, I there's some things that went wrong. One of the things that went wrong, so not only did money go wrong, one of the things that went wrong is my complainants. He became interested in my complainants also. He he wanted to talk to them directly, work something out with them, and that was another violation right there. I obviously it didn't continue because the cases continued. Obviously, you could see in the resolution that the judge heard all the testimony, but that was one of the biggest violations of the law, was that he is not allowed to try to talk to my complainants, or he's not allowed to negotiate a deal with my complainants directly. Okay, I repeat, he could deal with him through another lawyer or through the public defender or the whoever the attorney is representing them, but he, as a law, as a violation, cannot deal with them directly to make a deal with them. But he did, and number one reason why is over here in the Philippines, men are interested in, of course, as lawyers, money and then pussy. Okay, so he became interested in the complainants themselves, and for good reason. I mean, this is where I kind of discovered, I pretty much, before this, I've been living in a bubble. What I've been doing, it's pretty much contained to our world, and I'm sharing with our true believers. But then I realized that I have this skill, this talent when it comes to finding or talking to or interacting with girls here in the Philippines, that both the police and my lawyer and not are very interested in them. They're like, there's no way I could ever access girls of this quality on my own, so I'm gonna throw Bebots only under the bus to get access to them. I'll say that, and using my money to get close to them. Just, I guess, Bebots only. That's what you do with the true believers' money, is to get close. Yeah, but that's for our benefit, not to throw me under the bus, keep me in prison for their benefit, because they want to be the sponsors now. They want to be the daddy. They want to be the papa now. So there were two violations there: colluding with the police and contacting the complainants directly with you. Because what happened was, then what was happening now is, he's no longer my lawyer anymore. Number one, he's a lawyer for himself to make money. Number two, he became a lawyer for the police, and number three, he became a lawyer for the complainants. Now you're thinking, well, then what went wrong? Why did they withdraw? Well, those are the parameters, or those are the laws he violated. And eventually it came out, because I was catching wind of this. I was just like, I was going through, the longer I was in prison, I was just saying, it's got to stop. We're not gonna give any more money, and this is it. We already paid the acceptance. We're paying per appearance, but we're not gonna give any more money for any other motions or any other, because they're not. Everything's being denied. Everything's not working, and that's where it went wrong. Is because I already told you, this attorney has a gambling habit, and the money he would have shared with the police or with the complainants have already completely disappeared. So what they did was, what the police did was filed a case against him, and with the International Board of the Philippines. I know this for a fact. I got reliable sources that told him, And I don't know if he's suspended or if it's permanent, but right now this attorney can't practice law. I repeat, this attorney can't practice law because of, I don't know what evidence the police reported or not, but I guess there was enough, the interaction with the police, the testimony of the police, the testimony of the complainants, that they filed a case against him, so he could no longer be my attorney at that point. And the main reason why they filed a case against him was because he gambled all the money that I gave him. I repeat, he didn't have any money to give them whatsoever. I mean, this is the reason why all of this was going on, is money. And the fact that he already took it to the cockfighting pit and lost it all. The money I gave him in a few minutes was gone. As I always say, if you give so I said, we're not going to give him any more money, and that was it. So that was the straw that broke the camel's back. He couldn't give him any, I mean, like I said, the money that I gave him for his acceptance was fine, was there, and other motions was there, but his motions were weak. I read them and he said, no, it's fine, we'll win, and then we didn't win. We lost every motion that he filed, and if you read them, they were based on nothing, because he never talked to me, so that was the problem with him. And so, as you can see, there's a huge learning curve here that you gotta deal with, you gotta experience firsthand when it comes to lawyers. So when we got our second lawyer, we were doing a better. I hope that we learned our lesson, and the fact that the first lawyer was reported to the international, so here we go, the IBP, International Board of Development. So it's either he's losing his license is suspended. I don't know if it's permanent or some kind of sanctions, but at the current moment he can't practice because of his greed and his interest in pussy. I swear to God, he even offered a job to the complainants. He says, hey, when you guys get, literally, this was said, if you guys ever, this was reported to me through a very reliable source, told the complainants, hey, once you guys get old enough, I could offer you a job in my office. So that's how much trouble I was. I had a lawyer I was stuck with that was fully paid, that became the lawyer of my complainants by saying that, like, I'll give you a job. Yeah, this is terrible. He took advantage of you, and that he's guilty. So I was in a lot of trouble. But it was a blessing in disguise that he withdrew, because, as you can see, I couldn't fire him because he was already paid for, and I would have to double my expenses. So we had to work with him no matter what. And this was a blessing in disguise that he fired himself. I wanted to fire him so bad. But I couldn't do it, or I didn't know where would I go after this. I've been working with this one for several months to almost years. Where would I go and find another one and start over again? And how do I know this one is worse or better or the same? So this, like I said, this was a blessing in disguise. So the police reported him saying that, he's colluding with the complainants and the police. Here's the evidence, instead of doing, which is he can't do. He can talk to another lawyer who's representing the police and the complainants, but he can't do it directly himself, or he became their lawyer instead of mine. So the International Board of the Philippines didn't like that, so they suspended his license. So he threw me under the bus to try to get pussy and money, and now karma is a bitch, and now he's doesn't have a job anymore, doesn't have a livelihood anymore. I don't really know what he's doing right now, and I don't really care. I like I said, I've got my own problems to be dealing with. I've got a lot of unfinished business. So I just want to let you know, so I'm doing this slowly. I don't know if anybody's interested, especially with COVID going on, if people have moved on. But anyway, this is to give everybody an idea of what actually happened. So you don't have to guess, you don't have to speculate. But if you're some asshole out there who has an agenda, then go ahead. But for the rest of normal, regular people, not, there's a few out there, maybe a minority, but this is the online world where mostly it's trolls. But there's a handful out there that want to do the truth, and here it is in black and white what happened. The experience that I have with lawyers over here, I want to share with you. So maybe the mistakes that I made, you wouldn't have to, or try to manage the lawyers better. But like I said, I probably would have done a better job at managing, but I couldn't. And the boss was scared, and she was trying to get me out as desperate as possible. But that was just a recipe for disaster. And these are the things that happen. So this is a blessing in disguise. We had to hire another lawyer. This one we're managing properly now, or decently. I mean, I'm out, ain't I? So that's a good thing. But I wouldn't say one way or another that this was the right lawyer or not. We're just managing him better than we did with this one. I'm sure, like I said, all lawyers are the same. They're all greedy bastards. They're all after pussy. But at least this one, we're managing with the money, and he saw what happened. And he also saw what happened to this first lawyer. So he wanted to make sure, he dots his I's and crosses his T's, and make sure he stays within the letter of the law, so he doesn't end up like this, also having to notice of withdrawal as defense counsel. So that is like the first time there's a lot of firsts that happened in my case, and this is one of them. This is one of them where an attorney turned down money because he was reported by the police for colluding. And what's the word? What did they use? Tampering. There go. The witness tampering. That's what he was, because he was talking directly to them. But anyway, it didn't work out. They filed a case against him. So okay, we'll let you deal with us, but of course we're gonna need some benefits. He didn't give him the benefits because he's like all lawyers, you give them money and they'll pocket it and they'll spend it on their gambling, whatever vices they have, which they all have. So that's the update. So that's in black and white. So you don't have to speculate. You don't have to guess. You don't know what happened. All right. Yes, some deal was tried to work out, but no, it couldn't. It didn't happen because whatever money it is that I gave him, he kept it all to himself, and the case continued. The police didn't get their money from the attorney, and the complainants didn't get their money from my attorney because, like I said, you give any money to any attorney and they will pocket it themselves. Even one of the people in the comment, Dave's niece said she never got a penny of it because the lawyer kept all the money. So that's the rule over here. You give any money, the lawyer any money. So even if, let's say the argument is if I did pay them off, they never saw it. Here is what your correct answer is. And now, since they didn't get their money, they said, okay, well then we're gonna file a case against you, and then that's where he is regretting now. So because he started, just like most men, he started not. Oops. Sorry, I'm gonna try to do this in one take. He started thinking with the little head also, and got too greedy and couldn't do his job properly, and he thought what he probably suffered from some hubris where, I've done this before, I've used my lawyer position to get both, and look how it worked out. And he was really interested in my quality, and I'll get into the quality that I have actual documentation in terms of quality that I'm dealing with, that he and the police became very interested in, which led to their demise. Not only my demise, but their demise also, and the police's demise. I already told you that this case has everything in it. It has money, it has sex, it has corruption, it has threats, and it even has death. I repeat, it even includes death. It wouldn't be complete if it didn't have some death involved. So somebody died during this case. Obviously, it's not me, but it doesn't mean that I couldn't die in the future and talking to you from the grave if you're watching this and I'm already dead. But the point is, somebody already died that's involved in this case. Whether I had anything to do with it, like I said in my previous that's a question that I'm gonna have to answer in one of my live streams in the future. I will answer it ad nauseum, but right now, like I said, I'm just giving everybody a chance to digest, and also some of the people to come back slowly because of this pandemic. I don't know, because people moved on. Last live stream there was like only 6 people, because I think because it was the timing, the holiday, the short notice, and everybody had something else better to do. But if as time goes on, I'm going to continue this, and I'm going to keep everybody informed. Anyway, if you have any questions or comments to wrap it up, this is the result of why the first time ever a lawyer had to drop a case or had to quit or had to fire himself because he broke the law. And why? Because of his he broke why, and lost his license, and he had to quit. So, and why, and I already explained to you why, those 2 reasons. And probably, or maybe I had something indirectly to do with it, because I didn't, part of it, I mean, there's many reasons, part of it, I didn't manage him properly. Number 2, he became very interested in the quality of the girls that I was dealing with. And number 3, it was money, greed, gambling, vices. That's just the reality of here in the Philippines. And like I said, it's not right or wrong. There's really no right or wrong over here. It's just the consequences of our actions. Anyway, I need to get back to, we have online classes, and math is coming up, I think, in a few minutes. So this online classes, I tell you, it's a pain in the rear. It's like I'm going to school again, all over again. I mean, which is fine, but it's definitely a burden more on my schedule versus if the kids were in school the whole day. So, and another thing that I've been struggling with here is, I want to say here at the end here, is that I'm trying to keep myself motivated in terms of vlogging, especially now. I mean, why do I continue even though I already know that what repeatedly, the channels are going to be deleted? But I continued anyway because there was a lot of support. There was a lot of people that wanted me and supporting me and my family and our friends to continue the work. But right now, because I understand why, the support is the support that I used to have before is not here. Number 1, because nobody knows what happened, and there's people that moved on, and there's this pandemic, and there's lots of dynamics that went on. And I'd like to think eventually the support will come back, and that's why I keep plugging along and pushing along. But I get my moments where I'm struggling with why do I want to do it? There's really not many people watching, and there's really not much support. So maybe once I overcome there's a certain threshold or a certain barrier, and so I can get the support again. But it'll take time. I lost a lot of trust, and I would like to think that a lot of the trust and support can come back just as long as I keep working, and I keep informing, and I keep communicating, and I keep rebuilding the relationship I had with our community, with our true believers. Anyway, that's the update. If you have any questions, comments, just to let you know some of the major events that happened. I had my first lawyer quit on me, and why, and he's losing his license, and I talked about. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. But if they're too detailed, I'll try to address them in the next live stream. When the next live stream is, I would like to do it at least once a week. But if I don't, then we'll just have to wait for the next one. Anyway, this is BebotsOnly, giving everybody an update in black and white what actually happened, so you don't have to speculate and assume and make an ass out of yourself. Anyway, this is BebotsOnly. Thanks for watching.